So in this video, we want to talk about market segmentation, right? So the idea here is that you want to offer different products to different parts of the market, whether that is vertical segmentation, where you have low quality and high quality products, or horizontal segmentation, where you have different products that will appeal to different groups based on their tastes and preferences. So here we have a monopoly grocery store, right? And we have our hoteling type main street going from 0 to 1. And there's just one store. And so here our vertical axis is measuring consumer surplus, that's the lower line here, and then total surplus, that's the higher line. And so the producer surplus is the shaded area, and we can think of profit as the producer surplus here. And so one thing we want to notice is that people here at 0 are still getting some consumer surplus, right? So they're still buying, whereas people here at X, that person at X is the one that's just indifferent between buying or not, because they get no consumer surplus. And anybody to the right of X, between X and 1, is not buying, right? And so this is not a fully covered market. And so if you were a monopolist and could choose where you wanted to be in this market, you would want to move a little bit towards 1, right, away from 0, so that you could cover more of the market and increase your producer surplus by getting more people to buy. Now then the question is, all right, well, if I'm going to offer more than one location, right, and so this can be actual locations, right, it could be grocery stores or gas stations or whatever, or it could be more than one product appealing to different parts of the market, where should I position them? And here we see there's a couple possible outcomes from having two. So if transportation costs are high and the two stores are far apart, then we have something like in this figure. And so here, consumers that are between 0 and X shop at store A or buy brand A, and between Y and Z, shop at store B or buy brand Z. But we're still not covering the entire market, right? Customers between X and Y are not buying at all because the stores are too far away, and anybody from Z to 1 is not buying at all either. And so here now we have two products, and they're basically each acting like a monopoly, right? The other possibility is that there's overlap. And so this is the example where there's overlap. And now, so anybody between 0 and X gets more consumer surplus from buying from store A. And so they're definitely going to buy from A. And anybody from Y to 1 gets more consumer surplus from going to B. So they're definitely going to go to B. But people between X and Y could get positive consumer surplus from going to either store, right? And where the indifferent consumer is located here at XM. And so with just one store, right, profits are the shaded area that we saw in the earlier figure. But with two stores, you have to think about, okay, well, they're the shaded costs is minus the setup costs. And so with the setup costs, you have to decide, all right, well, is opening the second store going to offer enough profit? And so on our earlier picture, that's an easier question to answer because you can just get the total surplus from each store, add them up and compare. Here you have to worry sort of about cannibalization, right? And so this is something that firms have to worry about all the time, both in terms of whether they're opening a new store and whether that new store is going to pull customers from the old store, or offering more than one product, right? And so, all right, I have this product existing, I offer a new product. How many people that used to buy the original product are now going to buy the new product? And so that can be a really important question. So we want to just summarize a few of the findings from the models of this sort of multi-product production in monopoly, right? And so we have two brands, two products, or two stores. We got A and B. If they're unrelated, then they're neither substitutes or complements. You can just basically act like they're two monopolists. You can determine optimal output level of each product by setting marginal revenue equal to marginal cost in your first order conditions and you don't have to worry about it, right? They're independent. It doesn't matter. There's no economies of scope. There you go. But with demand interdependence, you do have to worry about it, right? And so there's two possibilities. So one is that these two products are substitutes, and the other is that they are complements. So if they are substitutes, the firm is going to charge a higher price than when they are independent. And the idea is that, remember when we had the Bertrand competition, you could raise your price when your competitor raised his price. And so now you're basically competing with yourself, but you don't want to pull away customers from the brand. And so you're able to increase your prices, and it's sort of an internal positive externality. And so it's like the two oligopolists in our Bertrand example, even with differentiated products, now become a monopoly. And so they can both raise their prices to maximize profits. Now with complements, so remember a complement is something you're going to use with it, like peanut butter and jelly, you're going to charge a lower price. And so in this case, it's because if you lower the price of one, that increases the demand for the price of the other. And so when you set prices at the same time, in order to maximize profits, you want to set a lower price for product A relative to the case where they are unrelated. So one example, one sort of extreme example here with complements is the idea of a loss leader. And so with a loss leader, you're basically selling a product below marginal cost because you're going to make up the profit selling the additional complementary product. And so the classic example is razors and razor blades, right? Where you can buy razors really, really cheap, but they don't do you any good without the razor blades. And so the razor blades then are expensive. And those are two like obvious complements, right? And it has the added benefit of sort of locking you into the system, right? So if you buy a Gillette razor, you can't, use other firms' razor blades on that razor usually. And so that's one example where firms might actually lower their price below marginal cost in order to maximize overall profits. In an oligopoly, multi-product production within one firm can also have a strategic advantage. And so Edwards says that, one reason you might want to do this is just size. And so the bigger you are, you might have deeper pockets. You might be able to either, subsidize predatory tactics in a particular market. Like if you're the big firm, you can engage in a price war, drop prices until the smaller firms go out of business. And then either they're out of business or you buy them up and then you can increase prices. He also argued that the degree of multi-market contact among producers might reduce competition. So the idea here is, remember we said in infinitely repeated games and like a Bertrand setting, you might be able to get to the collusive agreement by, with the threat of punishment. And here the argument is, well, if where you're competing in multiple markets, then the threat of punishment is even larger. And so that might reduce competition as well. And then Bernheim and Winston sort of look at this and they're like, that might not be true. So if firms are identical and there are constant returns to scale, they find that that's not true in their model. But if there's product differentiation or asymmetry in costs, multi-market contact might facilitate cooperative behavior. So I'd say that's an open question in terms of whether we think it's going to increase sort of tacit collusion or not.